Good evening and welcome to California Today. I'm David Lam. Let's take a look at today's stories. In San Francisco, drug overdose is a much bigger problem than the coronavirus. Last year, there were more than twice as many overdose deaths than deaths from COVID. A Bay Area teenager was arrested after hitting a police officer in the face. Locals share their views. After declaring this land as open space and farmland, some Silicon Valley officials want to preserve its agriculture and make it easier for farmers to own their own farmland. A conservation group in San Francisco is aiming to buy about 3,100 acres of remote California coastal land to protect it from possible logging and reserve it for public use. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
Save the Redwoods League, a nonprofit group in San Francisco, announced its plans to purchase 3,184 acres of remote land in California. Their goal is to save it from logging and potentially have it available for public use in the future.
The League is committed to raising the funds to acquire this property and to make sure that the forest is protected.
The property is being sold for $37 million by Superco, a family-owned logging company that's leaving the industry. The company's executive chairman, Eric Stark, told Fox, "You'd be hard-pressed to find 5 miles of coastline for sale without going to a third-world country."
It was up for auction, it is going to be sold, and it will either go the direction of conservation so that the forest can grow old again and the coastal landscape can be protected for all of us, or it will go into commercial management, and it would be harvested.
The property runs about 5 miles along the Northern California coastline, approximately 155 miles north of San Francisco. The League's deadline for raising the funds is December 31st. Jason Blair, NTD News, San Francisco.
Drug overdoses in San Francisco have become an epidemic. The number of overdose deaths nearly tripled that of COVID deaths last year. NTD's Eileen Ang hears more from a San Francisco native.
San Francisco has a much bigger problem than COVID.
Bad is an understatement. I would say it is horrific. It is negligent. It is an epidemic in and of itself. And it was not always this way.
Jenny Shao, a San Francisco native, says drug overdoses have gotten much worse within the last 5 years.
Before, you were able to walk through the streets regardless of what neighborhood you were in, and you did not have to try and tiptoe over bodies, not knowing whether they were dead or alive, and also you did not have to hopscotch through anything like drug paraphernalia, including needles. And you were not literally walking through a scene of, say, the Night of the Living Dead.
The city's data reveals there were 713 overdose deaths compared to 261 COVID-19 deaths in 2020. In July, San Francisco Mayor London Breed announced the city will invest $13.2 million to prevent drug overdose. Recently, city officials are pushing for safe injection sites as part of their overdose prevention program, which could start as soon as next spring. But according to Shao, that's like putting a Band-Aid on the problem and fast-tracking a way to self-destruction.
The idea is sobriety, and that's the golden key. You do not want to be dependent on these drugs. And from what I understand of these harm reduction sites, as the city likes to call them, is that you are putting yourself at less risk of, say, overdose or harm. But nevertheless, you are still locked in that state of constantly abusing yourself and, so to speak, teetering on the border of death.
Shao says the city needs to invest in more mental health programs. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
San Mateo police arrested 2 teenagers, one a juvenile, after threatening residents and striking an officer in the face. We spoke to locals to hear their responses.
A teenager hit a police officer's face on Wednesday night while responding to threats of violence towards local residents. The unnamed 17-year-old male struck the officer after refusing to comply. Police arrested the teenager and an accompanying 18-year-old. Locals responded to the assault.
In my opinion, if he made the choice to punch the police officer without being attacked, then he made a bad choice. If the minor did assault the police officer, you got to man up and you got to take responsibility for your actions.
If they're doing bad things, I mean, they have to pay for it.
His brain isn't even fully developed yet. How's his living situation? Who are his role models? That's the deeper root problem, is who's influencing this kid.
Why did the minor, the 17-year-old, punch the police officer in the face? Are they thinking that they can get away with it because they're a minor and they won't be charged legally as to the degree that an adult would?
I don't agree that an 18-year-old's mind is fully developed. It all depends on the individual, Like I said, their background, what they've been through, how they were raised.
The San Mateo police said the 18-year-old was sent to the county jail and the 17-year-old to juvenile hall. The 17-year-old may be released if a judicial officer does not meet with him for a detention hearing within a certain period.
One piece of farmland in Silicon Valley is being preserved. Officials and local farmers want to keep agriculture on this farmland instead of urban development. I spoke to a farmer to learn more. Coyote Valley consists of 7,400 acres of land in Silicon Valley. Officials, the Open Space Authority, and a local farmer spoke at a news conference Thursday morning.
And Coyote Valley provides irreplaceable benefits to nature and people. Wildlife connectivity, improved water quality and groundwater recharge.
Santa Clara County wants to preserve agriculture to give farmers from diverse backgrounds the opportunity to purchase affordable farmland from landowners.
They find it harder and harder to have access to ownership of the land that they work to cultivate.
A representative with the Open Space Authority told us not a lot of people in Silicon Valley know about the Coyote Valley land and the open space here. Now, we spoke to a farmer who told us he's been cultivating this land for 20 years.
Right now, we only have three working, 3 workers, plus my wife and 2 kids who help when they can. Over there, we plant 4-way, and the one across is wheat, and the one on the back is oats. So that's mainly what we're doing right now.
Gayton says he works on about 200 acres of land, and there's not much activity this time of the year because of the rain, but he can have up to 6 workers in the summertime.
I think being a farmer needs to be in your blood, because that's what it is, because if it's not in your blood, I think you'll quit the next year or less.
He says he can keep the family going and help provide crops to the county. He prefers to do business locally.
Oh yeah, we really enjoy it every day, When you get up and you're happy to feed the animals and, try to take care of your farm. It's very good.
Next Tuesday, the county supervisors plan to vote on preserving the land and resources by working with conservation groups and the city of San Jose. David Lamb, NTD News, California. Banana peels, chicken bones, and leftover veggies soon won't be allowed in most California trash bins. The restrictions are part of a mandatory food recycling program designed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from landfills. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the latest.
Some cities are ahead of the curve. Davis, home to about 68,000 people, launched its food recycling program back in 2016 and is seeing success.
It's really easy. I mean, all you're changing is where you're throwing things. It's just another bin. I appreciate that we can be making a change without really impacting our lives very much.
The goal is to turn food scraps into compost or energy, rather than let them decay and emit methane, a gas many times more potent than carbon. Before emitting methane as it decays, food that no one eats wastes energy and resources on production, transportation, and packaging. About 40% of food is wasted in the United States. Once that food is in landfills, it creates about 15% of the nation's methane emissions, according to the Environmental Protection Agency.
And they'll dump in the section where it goes through processing. If there's any contaminations that's large, it gets removed, and then the material gets grind up.
California's law, passed in 2016, tackles food waste in a few ways. Starting in January, local governments and entities that collect trash are supposed to have mandatory food recycling programs in place. Many cities will provide residents in single-family homes and apartments with countertop food waste bins that can hold scraps for a day or two.
It means that we just don't bury and forget about it. We're actually taking responsibility and not leaving it for a next generation to do something.
But a food recycling program hasn't yet been tried at this scale. Major cities like Los Angeles, San Diego, and Sacramento won't have their programs ready to go by January. Right now, only a fraction of the state's composting facilities are currently able to take food waste, and trash collection fees will go up in many places as local governments spend money to help create new composting facilities. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Coming up, we'll get an update on the sports scene from NTD's Thomas Christian. More details on our sports roundup.
Paul George scored 21 points and Marcus Morris Sr. added 17 as visiting Los Angeles pulled off a victory over Portland. Yusuf Nurkic scored a season-high 31 points for the Trailblazers, while Norman Powell scored 29 points in a lead guard role. Powell's responsibilities were increased on a night when Portland was without Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Clippers 102, Trailblazers 90. Stephen Curry and Andrew Wiggins combined for 15 three-pointers and 59 points, guiding Golden State's thumping of Orlando and San Francisco. Rebounding from a 112-107 loss to the San Antonio Spurs Saturday, the Warriors won for the 12th time in their last 13 home games on the strength of a 20-for-40 three-point shooting night. Gary Harris led 5 players in double figures for the Magic with 17 points. Warriors 126, Magic 95. In soccer news, Las Vegas has emerged as the front-runner over cities like Phoenix and San Diego to be home to the 30th Major League Soccer franchise, Commissioner Don Garber said on Tuesday. The support the city has shown for expansion teams in other leagues is a big reason why he is optimistic about the Sin City's prospects, he said during his 2021 State of the League address. Garber pointed to the success of the National Hockey League's Vegas Golden Knights, which made the Stanley Cup Finals in its first season in 2017 and 2018, and the National League's Las Vegas Raiders, who relocated from Oakland in 2020. The construction of a great soccer stadium in Las Vegas would be a priority, and he said the 30th team would not be in the league before the 2024 season. The sports of skateboarding, sports climbing, and surfing that first featured at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics have been included in the initial sports program for the 2028 Games in Los Angeles, the International Olympic Committee said on Thursday. Weightlifting, boxing, and modern pentathlon were not among the 28 sports, however, and must meet certain criteria in 2023 to be included, IOC President Thomas Bach told an online news conference at the end of an executive board meeting. Boxing and weightlifting have been struggling with the weight of corruption, governance, finance, and judging scandals and have been warned by the IOC to reform or miss out on the Games. An IOC session in February will approve of the initial program. The 3 sports that were left out will be up for re-inclusion at the IOC session in 2023. Skateboarding, sports climbing, and surfing made their Tokyo debuts this year, with the Games delayed by a year due to COVID-19, and were a major success among young viewers. The 3 sports were already part of the program for the 2024 Paris Olympics. For weightlifting and boxing, their exclusion from the 2028 Games initial program is a major blow to the international federations that have struggled to meet IOC-demanded reforms. Bach said Boxing Federation AIBA must change its judging and refereeing system, increase financial transparency, and diversify its revenues. Weightlifting, which has been rocked by revelations of doping cover-ups and decades of corruption that have led to charges against top federation officials, must address a change in culture and major doping issues. That's all for the NTD News Sports Roundup. I'm Thomas Christian, and thanks for tuning in.
And that's all for tonight. Thanks for tuning in. You can join us on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. Don't forget to like our videos and subscribe to our channel. I'm David Lamb, and we'll see you next time.